It's 5 o'clock on February 17th, 2026. It's time for the MW&L Light Commission meeting. I would like to call the meeting to order. Trina, could you please do a roll call?
Yes, Mayor Morris,
Here.
Commissioner Elmer.
Here.
Commissioner Garvin is on a leave of absence. Commissioner Macy Baker.
Here.
And Commissioner Johnson.
Here.
Perfect. So tonight we have a work session on our 26-27 draft capital budget, and I'd like to invite Mark Zedmeyer to present.
Right. Thank you. Good evening, commissioners and mayor. Thad's bringing up our presentation. We're going to talk to you. This will be our first budget presentation for this next fiscal year's budget. And as you'll see, we'll go through the slides and there'll be more presentations to come. Who gets this up here? He does this and not me. Yeah. It's always a bit of a trip. All right. Okay. So what we'll talk about today, our timeline. So the highlights of this, what we're going to talk about will be highlights of what was provided to you in the packet of all the capital schedules for the light and water divisions. So this will kind of be a pictorial and a verbal discussion of that to help with all of that data. And then we'll talk about some next steps. So you saw this slide last meeting. This kind of shows you where we're at here in February and what's coming all the way through to when we get to June, when we'll present to you a proposed budget for adoption consideration. There's a lot of steps that we do to get there, and we'll kind of walk you through each month where we're at in that process. So underlying all of that is our core values, our mission. Really, it underlies everything we do, and certainly as we look forward in our capital budget, you'll see these values as a part of that. So and how we develop the budget, it's very much there's a lot of people involved in this, and this evening all the operations and engineering group and others are all involved in the development of these budgets, and as we go forward, personnel and the rest it's the same. A lot of people involved to develop and create the documents and all the numbers that are associated with them, and then ultimately get into the form that we deliver to the commission for consideration for adoption. So, and this evening, so what's in the packet is the electric and the water budgets. And so James is going to, our operations and engineering director, he's going to go over those two budgets. But flowing into those budgets is also our fleet and facilities budgets and our information technology budget, because we have capital acquisition in both of those areas that are a part of the electric and the water budgets. And so Chad, our purchasing manager, he'll go over fleet facilities, and Thad, information technology manager, will go over the IT side of it. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to James, and he's going to talk about electric.
James Burke, Engineering Operations Director. Thanks for having me here tonight. We're going to go over the draft proposed capital budget for the 2026-27 fiscal year. And this budget's a little different this year because it's a fairly large budget. We have a $36.6 million budget. A large portion of that is due to the new facility. So Chad has some talk about that a little bit. The light division budget typically runs around 6-7 million on average for a budget, and the water runs around 5 or 6 million a year. And this year, you're going to look at that with the taking out the facility costs on there. You're looking at the light division being around 6 million, and the water capital budget being around 5. So we're on target and very similar throughout the years. So talking in regards to the light division, we have some common goals that we try to tackle here, and these are tied to our strategic plan. Capacity, reliability, resiliency, and safety are all goals that we focus on. And those goals help us create a criteria, and the criteria help us generate the project. So on these criteria for the projects, we're looking at age of our infrastructure, capacity, risk, number of failures, and that all helps us prioritize what projects we move forward and put into those projects each fiscal year. And we'll talk a little bit about those projects on the next couple slides. Some quick facts we have. So we have around 17,800 meters within our system, have 11 miles of transmission line. Back in 2018, we purchased 5 miles of transmission from BPA. We have 338 miles of distribution line. So if you look at that as a percentage, the ratio is about 51% overhead, 49% underground, which is a very good ratio in the system. You want to keep that around 50-50, not only for costs or for revenues, but also for managing as an operation piece. The underground and overhead both have their strengths and weaknesses, so that helps us out with that. We have 7 substations, and we have approximately 4,200 distribution transformers, and that includes the pad mount transformers, the green boxes you see on the ground, and the ones up in the air, not the digital poles. So for tonight, I'm going to talk about transmission, substations, distribution sections quite a bit. The capital inventory piece on there in regards to the light division really refers to the metering and transformers. And then Chad Hudson will talk about the fleet and facility piece. The kayak, the contribution and aid for construction is something that we look at every year. And that's basically something like a new subdivision comes in. That's your contribution and aid piece on there. So that's usually a negative number in the budget. Zone 2, which we're talking about for water, it also has some power tied to it. That would be a contribution and aid piece on there. So our capital budget for this year for the electrical division is $21.4 million. So transmission, we've had a lot of focus on transmission over the last couple of years, and it's been one of our primary focuses on just focusing on resiliency and capacity. So when we refer to the Walnut City Tap Reinforcement Project, we're really referring to the entire transmission line in itself. So that 11 miles I'm talking about. Right now, with this fiscal year, we've had purchased 2 poles. We have 2 poles, one for Joe Dancer Park, the steel pole, and one that's going to be put in the conservation area over by the 3 Mile Bridge. And that'll help us out quite a bit with resiliency. We also have in design 3 poles for out on Bertano Lane. And we expect to have that designed and constructed this in 26-27 as well. We're looking at doing a design and a rebuild of 1.7 miles between Bertano Lane and West Side. That consists of about 30 poles and reconductoring. That will be designed in-house and constructed in-house. And then the 1.4 miles below that for Highway 47 to Hembry, that will be designed. That will be something that will be contract out. We'll have an engineering firm design that for us. And we'll put that in a basically shovel-ready project for a future construction project. We have approximately 100 or 202 transmission poles in our system. We're trying to replace about 10 poles throughout the system in the 26-27 year. It's about 4%, 5% of the poles. Doesn't seem like a lot, but when you start looking at the project above and the number of poles we have, that's pretty good average. On the substation, so we have, like I mentioned, 7 substations in our system. In the budget this year, you'll see some of the big purchase items would be that we're purchasing 3 new transformers. So one of those transformers is we're out on Highway 18 for a new substation. And then we're purchasing 2 transformers for Windishar substation. And those are replacement transformers. And those are going to be through Kayak, Cascade, and Air Gas Liquid will be paying for those. We have a 3 Mile Lane substation property purchase out there also on Highway 18 that we're looking at. And that's in the works. And then we have a 115 kV metering upgrade project over at East Mac. That's going to reduce the number of BPA metering points within our system. So currently our metering points are at all 7 substations, and that'll eliminate it down to sort of metering points at East Mac and at the Baker Creek substations. We'll have 2 then. All right, distribution overhead. So this is we're talking about distribution now. Sometimes we have underbuild on transmission, that's distribution, and we just have distribution lines out there. We kind of break these into categories of, conductor upgrades and pole replacement, and sometimes they're tied together. So in this regards, we have a conductoring upgrade. This last year, we did quite a bit of work out on Bertano Lane from Baker Creek Substation to Bertano Lane, putting the poles in. And then this coming year, 26, 27, we'll be doing the reconductoring on that. And then we have some pole replacement projects. We have a Northeast First Street and then Highway 99 with about 15 aging poles that will be upgraded on those projects. So we have 5,300 distribution poles within our system. And on the average, we try to replace about 2% of those. That's 120 poles a year. This year, our goals are we're going to be replacing more than 120 poles, but on average, we replace about 2%. And that's industry standard for that, just to kind of chip away at it, keep moving on that. That picture on the right there, that's our crew up there doing some work. You'll see them up there either working out of a bucket or climbing poles and doing some work and some work there.
James, how long does it take? Can you do one pole a day, 2 poles a day?
I think you can do multiple poles a day.
Can you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we did, we had that transmission pole that was an emergency repair down there. They did that in about 3 hours, which was pretty good. They
In the
can,
field?
yeah, out in the field, and there's no traffic control head of that. It really depends on where you're at in the field and kind of the surrounding circumstances. They have to work with a lot of customers on the outages, but they can go pretty quick.
Interesting.
The picture on the right there, you see the water main. That's a ductile iron water main. That's up on zone 2. In the center, you have a bundle of electrical conduit. And then off to the left, that looks like some communication conduit there. So we are looking at doing some 8 projects. The categories entail, direct bury cable replacement, which is just, that's old wire 50s, 60s. It's just direct bury in the ground that fails quite a bit. We're trying to upgrade that, put conduit in. We do a lot of boring projects and then pull new wire through there. Replace unjacketed cable in the conduit. So that's just the cable with the copper wire around the outside that has least a number of failures. Replace those as well. Our projects have about 3,000 feet this year coming up on those. And then we have 2 new feeder projects, one out by Stratus, which is out by 3 Mile Bridge there, and one on Peavine. The one on Peavine is one that will probably come up later on because that has some wildfire mitigation tied to it also. So when we talk about the wildfire mitigation plan that comes up in June, we always talk about trying to make sure our system is either, we talk about wildfires quite a bit in fire prevention. And this is a good one to look at. When the wire comes down on the ground, it can start fires and so forth. This will be a little under 600 feet of underground wire out there. So this is a good project. And both these projects are tied to growth and capacity. So many questions at all? Feel free to interrupt.
What's growing on Peavine? Help me out here.
Well, Peavine is just the load growth out, the
Okay.
load growth out
Just
there.
the load,
Yeah, we don't have
okay.
like a lot of residential growth, but there is some, and also the age of the infrastructure out there as well. That one right there was generated because of the age, the load out there, and then also just how it's set up. It's kind of set up in a challenging little area there.
So
Yeah,
is
the
that Eagle
intersection.
Point that we're looking at?
No, that's over on Youngberg and Peavine there.
Okay.
We did phase 1 this last year. We're gonna do phase 2 this year.
Okay.
Can we service some of the way to Eagle Point?
We did. Yeah.
And we actually service PG customers off because our service line, actually, they don't have service up there, so they take service from us and those people pay PG rates off of our system. Sorry.
All works.
All right, I'll open up the questions. That's a photo there.
Look how clean that looks.
Substation. Any questions on the electrical division budget and what that is comprised of?
No.
Okay. It's kind of a high summary of what if you look through the budget, you'll see some line items on there. We forecast them out of it too, and you'll see those items in there, but that's a lot of work in that. And a lot of that work is done internally as well. So we try to do a lot of engineering design work and construction in-house.
I have one quick question on the wind char transformers. You're getting 2 of those. Have those already been ordered? I know there's usually a long lag time. Just kind of curious what.
They've been ordered. We've been working with Cascade Steel on that, and they were ordered about a year ago, John, on that. So they're
Last
going
year.
to be delivered fourth quarter 2027. And we've been in communication with them, and there's a series of billing set up to get reimbursed for those costs from Cascade on
Then
that.
do we pay for part of that upfront, or how does it?
We
bill
pay
it?
for all of it upfront
All of
as
it
a
upfront.
reimbursement.
Well, no, it's.
Well, I guess
it's-
Cascade's paying them.
No, it's spread out over time. There's progress payments,
Okay,
and then Cascade will pay those progress payments as we get them.
okay,
And then since our contract is structured as a pass-through contract with Cascade, they're responsible for 100% of those costs.
okay.
So that does not impact our residential general service customers.
Okay, thank you.
And then early, there was a portion for the pole replacement where you said one portion of it or one section we do in-house and the other one we bid out and that will set it our shovel ready.
Yeah, so we were
What
talking,
determines
there was.
what we take on and what we
Sure.
would look at.
We'll work with it for one, but this one we're looking at is, that's the transmission line we're talking about, and that's one where that pole failed, just very much,
Yeah,
the
I
pole that
remember
failed
that. Yeah.
recently, and that has that section line is like 1.4 miles. Has some environmental issues out there we gotta address, and then also, they have some H structures out there also that we're looking at, so. Our software in-house we don't design a lot of those H structures in-house, so that piece would be consulted out. Otherwise, the other section we're talking about, that's something pretty straightforward. We have the software and staff ability to design it in-house and construct it. The piece that's designed outside will be constructed by our staff in-house.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, pretty much everything we do on transmission distribution is constructed in-house. We just talked about steel poles, like the ones out on Hembry and a couple of those we had contracted out where they put the base in, so they go 25 feet or deeper with the base and they pour concrete and then they structure it up. We're looking to do they'll do the base and then we're looking at getting some equipment for our staff to do the steel.
Okay.
So we try to do as much as we can in-house.
Yeah.
We have the capability to do it in the
Yeah.
staffing, so. All right, water. So the water division, we have a $5 million budget for water this year for capital. These goals are tied to our strategic plan. So we have the capacity, reliability, resiliency, safety, water quality. Those are all very important goals. The water quality one is something we work a lot with as well. At multiple levels, whether it's in the watershed or within our system down here. These feed into the criteria. So we have age, like age of pipe, number of failures, capacity, material pipe, we have AC pipe, we have cast iron pipe, we have ductile pipe. And we have watershed management, which is really important. We work with our forester and we also work with our staff just patrols to the watershed, make sure we have our turbidities low and everything working appropriately. The picture on the right there, that's a pretty typical water main project we do inside city limits. That's our staff out there. We got a couple culverts there and they're putting some ductile iron pipe in within our system. Some quick facts, we have 6,350 acres of watershed that we manage. That brings in on a 10-year average around 2.7 million for our capital budget. That feeds into our capital budget and funds some of these projects, which just helps keeps control of the rates and so forth as well. Our water treatment plant has a capacity of 22 million gallons a day. We have 12,000 meters approximately. An important one to note on here is our water loss is 5.8%. So that's something that we report to the state and we manage that. There's a goal by the state for all water utilities to have under 10%, which not all water utilities meet, but we've done that for as long as I know of.
Yeah.
Last year was like 6.2, and that accounts for all water loss, whether it's a water leak, fires, whatever you can think of for water being lost. That's the water loss accounted for there.
Yeah.
We have 36 miles of transmission pipe, so that's 14 inches and larger. And we have 162 miles of distribution within our system. An important note also on here is the 71% ductile iron pipe in the system. That's pretty rare for a city to have that high percentage of ductile iron pipe, which is one of the reasons our system is so reliable. Is we do a lot of work in-house. A lot of cities are probably below 50% on that. I would suspect maybe even in the 30s. A lot of cast, a lot of AC pipe out there. We've done a good job of replacing them over the years. The photo on the right is a project we did last year. It was the raw water line that we upgraded. That's a 36-inch HDPE pipe, high density polyethylene pipe. It ran from Haskins Reservoir all the way to the water treatment plant. So that was a good project that we got completed there. We're gonna work on talk a little bit about water resource in the budget, water treatment plant, transmission and distribution. I'll touch on a couple slides coming up here. The capital inventory, the $350,000 there is just solely allocated to meters. So we've been doing a pretty heavy lift on replacing our meters within our system and trying to get all those upgraded. So we've been doing that over the last couple of years,
So,
like 3-4 years.
You know, we're about 56% essentially meters, so that those are, you know, drive-by meters essentially. You just drive by and pick up the reads. And so our goal is to be 100%.
And we've making some good progress on that. We've done a good job.
I think the electric side is about 89% meters.
Gotcha.
And then we have the fleet facility, which Todd will talk about in a bit. And then we have the kayak, the 2.5 million, a lot of that 2.5 million is for zone 2. So that pump station project and number, we're also doing some infrastructure up there as well. So, but the total budget by 15.2 million for this year's water capital budget. So the water division, water source budget. So this is about the Haskins area, the McGuire reservoirs. On the left there, you see the log boom. So this last fiscal year, we purchased we purchased log booms from McGuire Reservoir last year. We were using logs up there to keep the debris off the outlet structure, which worked fine for a number of decades, but this is a much more efficient way of doing that. So we looked into replacing them with these plastic log booms, and we purchased it last year for McGuire, and then this year we're going to be purchasing the same log booms for Haskins. When you get your tour coming up in June, you should see them up there in McGuire. And then on the right there, that's the diversion structure. That's just a portion of it. It's one of the pieces you can see that's exposed. And that will be, you'll be talking about that in the next couple of years also. It's isn't in this year's budget, but it's coming up the following year. We're starting to think about it, and that piece needs to be replaced. We're going to be falling around the road, but we've been slowly working on that project over the last couple of years, replacing the diversion structure with new pipe. So it's all raw water, so it doesn't meet the potable water standards, but we can do that work in-house for a good portion of it. But that piece we would like to eliminate at some point. And then also there's a smaller piece that there's a hydraulic valve operator will be replaced up at McGuire. On the right, there's an aerial photo of the water treatment plant. You'll hear coming up in talks the word flocculators and sedimentation basins. And that's over, these sedimentation basins here. They have you get a tour up there, you'll see the big propellers up there that you add alum to it and drops out the sediment and so forth. We've having some problems with the flocculators, bearings and shafts replacement. So we have a consultant on board to help us work through those problems. But in the 26-27, we're going to be getting some parts for those, and I'm going to replacing those. We also have in there a coring generation system, which will be presented tonight to commission for approval for our redundant system. That'll give us 2 coring generation systems that can run up there and give us some redundancy there. And then we're looking at a land purchase for future water treatment plant on the Willamette. That's up there on Highway 18 as well. We've had some discussions about.
You can actually see the new tanks in there in that picture.
Yeah, those are 2 new tanks back
Those
there.
the two that were
Yeah.
outside when we were up there.
Yep, they're right there.
I wonder how they were gonna get in that building.
Yep.
Very carefully. All right, so transmission line, we've also focused quite a bit on the water transmission line. So this is the finished water transmission main. The photo there is from 2019. We put in around 6,600 feet of 36-inch ductile pipe. They bag it, so they wrap it for it doesn't get corroded and so forth, and then they backfill it there. But was a pretty good project. We have just phases 3 and 4 designed. So that's where we're kind of at, and that's a big chunk. That's a little over 14,000 feet of pipe there. Phase 3, which we'll be talking about coming up in next year's budget for construction, is from the Fox Ridge reservoirs over to Baker. Baker Creek Road there.
Yeah. So total length is about 54,000 feet. We've done just under 10.
Under 10, yeah.
So we've got about 45,000, 44,000 something to go.
Yeah, we tackled phases 1 and 2 there, and then what we did, we kind of started thinking about design. We got phases 3 and 4 designed, and at the same time, concurrently, we looked at alignment. So the commission approved us to look at the alignment of that finished water transmission main a couple years ago, and so we have the alignment figured out, and now we're in the process of working with obtaining the easements. So we have 26 easements we need to obtain for that. Right now, we're kind of sometimes we have property owners come to us and other times we have to chase them down. But for the phase 3, we're really working with the property owners this coming year. We have a number of issues in regards to hazelnuts and other issues on getting access to the properties that we'll have to negotiate out. But
You might want to talk about why phase 3 is critical for us. Pipe in the creek.
the exposed pipe in the creek, I mean, there's an exposed pipe in the creek.
There, really?
So we have a section of pipe in Baker Creek, and that's been there for quite a while, but it's been on our list to get repaired. We thought about trying to do it as a separate project, but when we were looking at doing this piece and we went up to the creek and then we decided to go with the environmental piece all the way through to Baker Creek Road and just replace it all, because the pipe, if you go out to Baker Creek, the pipe is exposed. You can see the pipe, it's right above the water there, depending on what the level is. So we need to get that taken care of.
And where is that on Baker Creek?
You've got Abrams
Oh, okay,
It's right behind the Fox Ridge reservoirs if you go
straight
out to
back.
straight back.
okay.
It's where those homes are over by the new subdivision,
West,
Abrams.
Yeah, about
West.
10 years ago, maybe a little bit, maybe 12 years ago, we actually had to go in because the bank sloughed and we had to rip wrap the bank to protect the pipe. So we had to do an emergency repair there on the bank.
Yeah, so that'll be a project coming up. But for right now, for this fiscal year 26-27, we're looking at permitting for that project and also some easement acquisitions. All right, distribution. So like I mentioned before, both on the electrical side and water side, we do a lot of work in-house with our crews. You'll see the water crew out here putting a lot of pipe in the ground. Our goal is 1,000 feet of pipe per year. We exceed that often. They can do a lot more than that, but these guys are doing hydrant maintenance, they're doing meters, they're doing everything on the distribution side. So we really try to focus on some of the projects that can replace some of the pipes we've had fill in the past, and we've had water quality issues on. So we focus a lot on cast iron in our system. You'll hear that a lot, and number of failures within our system, and then water quality. Some projects coming up, obviously we're working on Zone 2 pump station this year. So that'll be a big distribution project that we're looking at. We're gonna do Highway 99 water main replacement, and then over the last year, so we've had a lot of main breaks, and I'd say a lot, maybe 3 or 4 out there on 25th and Hembry Street on that area. So we're gonna look at that and try to get those mains replaced out there, and those are cast. It's a flood over water treatment plant. Any questions? No?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. And
Thank you.
Chad?
Is it Chad?
Thank you, James. Good evening. We're going to talk about fleet and facilities. So there's a little bit going on in that area. So we'll kick it off with the fleet. So our goal is safety, reliability, and to minimize maintenance costs. Replacement criteria, as James said, a lot of the goals kind of feed into the criteria. We look at replacement, we look at age. If we have increasing maintenance costs on any fleet asset, if different needs arise, resale value in miles and or hours or both. We do have a compact service territory, so a lot of times miles don't rack up, but it's the hours. We have a lot of, the crews right there working on a pole. Truck's not moving, not getting miles, but we're racking up hours. So trying to balance that, and then trying to balance resale value, so we can get rid of them and replace that. Just put some quick facts on the number of fleet assets we have in our fleet. We have 16 light duty, 14 medium duty, and 13 heavy duty trucks that roll pretty much every day, as well as 17 off-road equipment type stuff, backhoes, track hose, wheel loaders, stuff like that. We have a very big fleet services department. We have 2 guys out there that do an outstanding job for us. They also maintain 6 standby generators, fleet assets of 80 plus, and small engines of 90 plus. This year, some of the highlights for the fleet capital budget, looking at 960,000. We're looking to replace Ford F-550 service body with crane as used by the water department. That the current water service truck would rotate then to fleet services, and theirs would be auctioned off or liquidated. The big item that we're looking at is a transmission digger derrick. There's a photo there. As James was mentioning, we have 11.2 miles of transmission line now. We're looking to replace a bunch of poles. We don't have the equipment internally to do that. So that's the remedy right there. And so we're looking to purchase one of those. Tire machine for the shop, a tire changing machine we've had for 15 years. The one we have currently is on its last leg, and it's hard to find replacement parts for it. Used a smaller used telehandler forklift for the treatment plant for the terrain up there, the hills and stuff they have to go up, and the current forklift has a difficult time handling that. So we're looking for something to remedy that. That forklift we'd have a rotation when we go to Fox Ridge, and so we'd have one up there. We currently don't have one at Fox Ridge. We have pallet racking and materials up there that we store. And then we're hoping to receive a one-man bucket truck that we ordered in 2022. So the last date I got is April of 2027, and that's been pushing back. So we're hoping that it's going to make next year's budget. So that kind of rolls into the procurement challenges. Availability, especially with electric utility trucks, is still a challenge. And the costs, they're elevated, and the purchase price that we get when we get the quote is different when we receive it because it's 4 or 5 years later. So it's been a real challenge for us.
Chad, as a digger, would that be a brand new truck then?
Yep.
Is that something that would come years later, or is that something you can get right away?
I'll tell you about that later.
Yeah, I think we might be talking about that a little bit later. Yeah.
That one's available, the one we're looking at, it's available right now.
Yeah. We have, I'm kind of spilling the beans a little bit, but we've had this in previous year's budget. We didn't in this last fiscal budget. We've been looking for years for a transmission digger. We've been looking for used. There's nothing out there that's in good condition that fits our needs. We have rented a few. The crews have been able to operate them. They work, but they're too big. They don't fit our needs. And the price is they're substantial, even if they're used. So we'll talk more about.
Okay, thank you.
This. So that's really it for the fleet. Before we transition to facilities, we have any more questions on the fleet budget? All right. Well, facilities budget. Yeah, we've been talking about this for some time now. So the goals are to maintain and improve facilities to meet the needs of current and future water and light operations. Criteria is age, need, efficiency, and adapt to evolving work environments. We listed some quick facts down there. This is the facility that we're sitting in right now. It's constructed in 1988. And at that time, we had 5,000 water meters and 8,200 electric meters. You go down to 2024, you can see the difference. So it's more than double. I guess some of the things to pull out of that is we haven't done anything to this existing facility, really. We did re-roof the warehouse back in 2018. We did add a fuel station in 2021, but outside of that, we haven't done anything to this. Put some new carpet down, but put some paint on the walls, but very, very little. We've chopped this building up as much as we can by adding offices here and there, but we're up to the rope for that. So As you see, the very bottom one, 2025, as everybody's aware, we started design of the facility expansion project. It was really fed from the 2023 facility master plan that was completed by Soderstrom Architects. Facilities budget, it's a large one, 25.6, almost 7 million. And this is an estimate right now. The numbers are becoming a little bit more clear as we're getting closer and closer. But the numbers are still rolling in. But given the numbers we have right now, this is kind of where we're looking. Some of the highlights there, we have engineering and architectural services throughout the duration of the project, all the way through construction. They'll be helping us with the construction administration. And then we have the GC, or the general contractor, who'll be building the facility. Most of the window is in next fiscal year. So they're planning to start in June of 2026 this year and wrapping up in June of 2027. So there's a big spike in costs right there, just because most of everything's gonna be done in next fiscal year. We do have an owner contingency planned, construction contingency planned, as well as special testing and inspections. They would test concrete, the foundations, any type of steel structures, the bolting, the weldings and stuff like that. That's hired by the owner. That's not a contractor thing. And then those 3 items listed down there, the furniture, appliances, and AV, IT equipment, those would be owner purchased, contractor installed items. And so we're still trying to finalize the list for that. We know we're going to be purchasing those. We don't have a detailed list of all the items we're going to be purchasing. As I mentioned previously, this is all driven from the facility master plan completed by Soderstrom in 2023. And this next slide here kind of, it does highlight a phased project delivery. Phase 0.5 and phase 1 are primarily what we're working on for this project. Phase 0.5 was driven by the commission as a priority to seismically upgrade the warehouse. That's why it's the 0.5 instead of a 1. So we moved that obviously to the top one. But what we're looking in this project is to seismically upgrade the warehouse as well as this building, expanding both buildings. We're gonna be looking at a new transformer storage yard, stormwater drainage improvements. I don't know if you go in our yard right now, we have standing water, it's a lake. And so that'll be really nice to fix that. And then we're gonna have frontage improvements that are required. New parking lot, landscaping, signage, and irrigation. So that's what we're looking at. We're looking at approximately $30 million for all that, for what we're gonna be tackling with this project. That includes all engineering, architectural costs. That's kind of an all-in estimate right now. The master plan summary of probable costs to complete all 4 phases was about 44,000 or 44 million, sorry. So things are moving very rapidly with this project. Things are picking up exponentially. We've got design development drawings, which is the second phase of 3 phases. We got all the drawings in. They're moving forward next month. PNC and MW&L will be here to present that. And we just received 50% construction drawings.
And I think permit next month.
And permit next month. So things are really, really moving.
Exciting.
It's exciting.
And the reason the permits is there's a code cycle changed effective April 1st. So we're trying to get our permits in before that change.
So you'll be hearing a lot from me coming up, starting next month. As I think I mentioned, also, this isn't really part of that, but while I'm here, we have a lease agreement signed. So Swing Space will be the March 15th. We can move in. We won't move in that early, but that's only a month away.
Yeah.
So things are happening.
Yes.
So if you know any agencies that are looking for furniture, I know I've talked to
Yeah.
Adam. the building will have to be gutted, all the furniture, everything off the walls before they start construction, so,
A lot of moving parts right now.
yeah. But exciting.
Yeah.
Exciting.
Very much so.
All right, any more questions?
No.
Okay,
Well,
well,
next month.
We'll throw the Thad Woodward, our team manager.
Now for the good stuff.
Bat and clean up that.
So aligned with the goals of the company, specifically for IT, we adopted the CIA, SIA model. So essentially, we have two different focuses or we have two different categories of networks, and the focus are a little bit different. So in our main office and facilities, we use a CIA model, which puts the integrity, or excuse me, the security of the data first, the quality or the reliability of the data second, and then it being available third. Whereas in operations, a higher focus is put on the safety of both people and equipment first. The reliability of the data second, and availability third. It's a slight difference, but it kind of gives you an idea of where the focus of the two networks, or at least the two technologies really are. We really want to protect where people can, where people work around heavy equipment. With that in mind, and this image is kind of cool. This is actually currently what's on our lot. That's the new pole where we're taking down our steel tower that we have now. So this is the work that was being done just last month. That's our crew, and that's also a contractor that's working together on that pole there, moving our antennas over. But with that, and just an overview of our network here. As you know, we maintain a dark fiber network throughout the city that we use. The city of McMinnville also is on that, as well as the McMinnville School District uses that network. And on top of that, we have a 12-mile point-to-point radio that connects us to the treatment plant. To get over the hills, we relay that over the High Heaven site, which I moved to this area 10 years ago, give or take. And so it's kind of helpful to be able to spot High Heaven from here, because it's kind of a half balding peak right now, but that line of sight has been very helpful. It's quite the relay for not just us, but Yadkin County and the city. So we also use that to relay to the Trenton plant. And also the third point is kind of interesting. As part of our reliability, we have actually been reducing hardware. So with how technology moves, with virtualizing servers, we can actually reduce hardware that we have to maintain. And when it's virtualized, while it's still housed primarily here, at least within the bounds of our network, by reducing hardware, reduces failures, and it allows us to do a lot of work without actually having any downtime. So that's been a really nice improvement over the last couple of years to start adopting that technology. And by extension, the last one there, that's been a multi-year project to kind of get this up and going and get us more to a very reliable multiple disaster recovery sites within the city here. So we're in good shape, much better shape than we were in the past, but it's also the work in the past that enabled us to be here. So I'm grateful that that groundwork was laid, and now we have some robust disaster sites available to us, disaster recovery sites available to us. So finally, as part of the budget this year, and in line with that, we're continuing with firewall upgrades and high availability firewalls. Part of the building project for here proper is we're upgrading the door security system here to a higher encrypted system. But on top of that, and within the budget here, is we're going to extend that same upgrade to sites that are not necessarily covered under the building project. So that's offsite, like the treatment plant, substations, etc. That will also increase the security there. Fox Ridge is continuing to be upgrading. And finally, we're this year's budget, we're the 25-26 budget, we're upgrading part of the link, and on next year's budget, we'll complete the link to treatment plant to give a much higher speed and reliable link. That's short and sweet, yeah.
Good job.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is that everybody?
I think that's it.
Awesome. All right. Thank you. All right, so now we're gonna go to the consent agenda. We have 4 items listed on the consent agenda. Would any commissioner like to remove anything from the consent agenda?
I would make a motion.
So we have a motion from Commissioner Johnson to accept the consent agenda. Do I have a second? Second. So a second from Commissioner Lisa Macy Baker. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
I,
Any opposed? Okay, so that passes. And then we have a request to add an item to the agenda tonight. And Sam's going to tell us about what that is.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So staff came to me earlier today and asked that I present you a request to add an agenda item onto your tentative agenda. This would be item number 10 under new business, item 10D. And we're looking for a motion to add agenda item 10D relating to resolution 2026-5 regarding the purchase of a digger derrick, which you heard about earlier in the discussion. So that would, if you need more discussion or more information about that, we can provide that. But that would, the motion would be to move to add agenda item 10D to new business, resolution 2026-5 regarding the purchase of a digger derrick.
So do I have a motion to add it to the agenda?
So moved.
Okay, so motion from Commissioner Lucy Baker, second from Commissioner Elmer. Any discussions?
Nope.
All those in favor?
I,
Any opposed? Okay, so we will talk more about it when we get to 10D. Thank you. Okay, so item 5, included in your packet are the accounts payable and purchasing reports. Did anybody have any questions on those? Nope, okay. And we don't have any new employees tonight. And then we have Brent Keller, our consultant on partner reports, Forrester.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, we wrapped up reforestation last week. And that was a full plant of our the 2024 sale that was cut in 2025, and then a full plant of the 730, 190, 100 road sale that was sold and cut last year. The other 2025 sale, Stimson bought, and we're holding until this year, and they look to start cutting on that in May. And then we had our bid opening last Thursday for the 2 sales. Boise Cascade was the high bidder on the 100, 114 road at $680.09 per 1,000 board feet for Douglas fir, and Stimson Lumber Company was the high bidder on the 100, 101 road number 2 sale with a bid of $719.36 per 1,000 board feet for Douglas fir. Then I enclosed a memo as well that gives you a full rundown of all the bidders and the buyers, and you can see it up there on the whiteboard as well. So we had a real good turnout. That's not entirely uncommon to have a little less interest in one sale than the other, but yeah, to get 8 bids was real good. And we're in, as far as the logging market goes right now, we're still a little below the 5-year average. It's not a great market, but this also speaks to the value of doing stumpage sales, where it's entirely different behavior from the buyers when you have a competitive sealed bid. Because the market's not great, lumber's down, but there's only so much supply out there, and this is a way they can tie up supply and control the flow of it. And you see that, like where Stimson will hold it. Simpsons, they haven't even started cutting on that one sale, and they've completely paid in advance the full estimated value of the sale. So that's that's the value of that. I was gonna mention real quick, for Simpson and Boise, just out of interest, what they will manufacture from the Douglas fir. They take out these sails. You know, Stimson has 2 mills and these sails fit them really well. All our wood fits them one place or the other because they cut studs like 2x4, 2x6s, 4x4s. And they can cut a higher quality version of that at their Forest Grove mill because we have a older, tighter grain log. And then the wood that would be too big for that mill, they take to Kotzkenai where they have no limit on size there. And they'll cut a lot of cross arms and then like free of heart timbers as well. So like last year we had a sale at this 350 sale that they held where one of the units is like a small log and then a lot of really big wood in another unit. And people were like, well, what do I do with that? I said, well, it'll fit Stimson. And they paid big money for it. So, and then Boise, they produce engineered wood products, you know, I-joists and LVL material. And then as a byproduct of that, they make a lot of plywood. So that's the end use of the watershed timber. So with that, my recommendation is accept the high bids and award the 100-114 road sale to Boise Cascade and the 100-101 road number 2 sale to Stimson Lumber Company.
I'll have long-winded motion.
Okay, I was gonna say, I don't see one here. All right,
So the motion would be to accept the high bids from Boise Cascade of $680.09 per 1,000 board feet for the 100-114 road timber sale, and accept the high bid from Stimson Lumber Company of $719.36 per 1,000 board feet for the 100-101 road number 2 timber sale, subject to the issuance of a notice of intent to award, no protest being filed, and direct staff to prepare the necessary documents, including contracts, bonds, notice of intent to award, and authorize the mayor and clerk to execute the contracts upon receipt of the required documents. That is the motion.
perfect. Do I have
So
somebody?
moved.
Okay. Commissioner
second.
Tumler and a second from Commissioner Johnson. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Any opposed? All right. Thank you, Brent.
All right, thank you. very
Thanks
much.
for being here.
Thanks, Mayor.
There are no appearance requests on the agenda for tonight. Number 9, there are 2 staff reports on the agenda. I'd like to invite Power Resource Manager Jamie Phillips to update the commission. Hi, Jamie.
So I'd like to take an opportunity to share with the commission a little bit about McMinnville's power resources portfolio. Not only just to provide you this information, but I think it'll also help inform the operating budget, of which power and transmission costs are a large chunk of the electric budget. So that's coming up later this spring, and maybe this will help provide some context for those decisions. Okay, so McMinnville currently purchases power from 3 sources, those being the Bonneville Power Administration, Grant County PUD, Waste Management Renewable Energy, and of course, we consider energy conservation a resource in our portfolio. All those combine to provide reliable, affordable, and highly carbon-free power supply. McMinnville's contract with BPA consists of their BPA's portfolio consists of 75% hydro, 13% nuclear, and 12% other. Those are primarily market purchases. So that's where we kind of get to the 88% carbon free. Some of that 12 could also be, but it's not defined. BPA serves 738,000 megawatt hours of our load for this fiscal year. That's about 97% of our total. We purchase what's called a load following product. And that serves us best, serves our needs best because of the nature of our load with the steel mill and the fluctuations in capacity requirements that has. We do receive renewable energy certificates for some of the power purchased for incremental efficiency improvements to the hydro projects and some of BPA's investments in wind energy. Our current contract expires in 2028, which I think you're fully aware. The new contract was executed and will commence on October 1st, 2028 and extend through 2044. BPA also supplies our transmission service. We take what's called a network integration transmission service, and that agreement expires in 2031. Next, well, here's a little more about the federal Columbia River power system. That's the 31 dams on the Columbia and its tributaries that are owned by the Bureau of Reclamation, operated by the Army Corps of Engineers, and then BPA markets the power generation from those facilities. Those dams not only provide energy, that they're also integral to protecting fish and wildlife, flood control, irrigation, navigation, and cultural resources, and recreation. Don't forget recreation. Part of the FCRPS is also the nuclear plant, the Columbia Generating Station, that supplies about 1,000 megawatts of capacity for the region. So in total, that system offers 7,600 average megawatts of firm energy for BPA's customers. Benefits of that energy, that capacity, the flexibility of those projects, the carbon-free nature, and the low cost. Some challenges currently may hear in the news, the ongoing litigation with some of these projects, the competing priorities and interests of the parties. So, and water supply is always a concern. That has to do with the snowpack and the upstream basin conditions in Canada. And then fish and wildlife is all an ongoing challenge too with these projects. Here's a good visual of BPA's service territory and the projects in the Columbia River Basin that provide the region with energy. BPA was established in 1937. McMinnville started taking purchasing power from BPA in 1940. They are a self-funded agency, setting rates to cover costs. So they don't receive federal appropriations. They market the power from the 31 projects. They also own and operate 75% of the high voltage transmission in the region. They also put a lot of effort and money into a fish and wildlife program. They have a multi-billion-dollar budget and thousands of employees. Next, Grant County PUD. We have interest in 2 projects in Grant County, the Priest Rapids and the one of them dams, built in the 50s. We've been a party to those projects since the 50s. They're hydro projects, again, renewable, carbon-free. We do receive renewable energy certificates from those. And we take about 3 average megawatts a year, which makes up the remainder of our power supply currently serving load. And it is our lowest cost resource. on an average megawatt hour basis. Thirdly is our interest in the waste management renewable energy facility. This is a project that McMinnville invested in 2010 by contracting with Waste Management to purchase the output of the landfill gas to energy project. It is considered a renewable resource, producing about 28,000 megawatt hours annually. Currently, we don't need that energy to serve our load. Our needs are met with BPA and Grant County. So that energy is remarketed by BPA on our behalf. We also receive renewable energy certificates, and that purchase agreement expires in 2030. So as I mentioned earlier, McMinnville's power and transmission supply costs are a significant portion of the electric division operating budget, 68% this fiscal year. Power approaching 30 million and transmission about 4.6 million. McMinnville's load is currently about 86 average megawatts, and it's stayed pretty steady, pretty flat in the recent decade. Our peaks have grown, have changed. We are seeing more consumption in the summer. We're still a winter peaking utility, but we're seeing that load growth in the summer. So you can see that, well, if I had a chart, you would see that the summer peaks are closing the gap and approaching what we see in the winter. We have a little over 17,000 residential, commercial irrigation meters, about 50% of our load. As I mentioned, our load growth there has been pretty moderate, and part of that is due to our energy efficiency program that has helped offset load growth and mitigate that. Last year we achieved about 3,200 megawatt hours of energy efficiency. So for reference, that would supply about 200 residential homes for a year. Our industrial customers, Cascade Steel and Air Liquide, make up the remainder of our load, about 50%. And those customers are served under special contracts, which extend through 2028 and align with our BPA agreement. So we will be starting conversations with those customers in the near future, what their contracts will look like post 2028. Every year I update our load forecast, and I work with BPA to agree on what makes sense with our load, considering many variables, weather, conservation, any other resources, how electrification is impacting us. And for our industrial customers, it's a little different. They're driven more by the economy, and they're kind of commodity driven, and also regulations. So McMinnville's future power supply looks very much like it does today. We did conduct an integrated resource plan. We contracted with a consultant about 1.5 years ago to study our resource options ahead of our BPA contract signing. And the recommendation in that report was what you see on the screen: to continue purchasing power from BPA and to use our non-federal resources to serve load until that, and to use Waste Management until that agreement expires in 2030. question?
Slide 3. I think I
We
remember.
go back.
It was, there's a contract that ends in the transmission.
Mhm.
What, on all of those, but mainly like that, what is the exposure to us? Like, when did like any type of lease, they can come back and be like, it costs this much now, or is there any guide to that keep everybody within the lines and there's no
Surprises.
surprises?
Yes, yeah, and it's an ongoing sort of developing conversation. BPA is currently, struggling to provide transmission capacity in the region. They're addressing that now by kind of reforming some of their processes. As far as a service contract, that's they operate under what's called an open access transmission tariff, which provides guidelines for transmission service. The service we take, the network integration service, is it's the firm service of energy and capacity on the system, and that is what we would pursue in the future.
I think the one comment though is that we're preference customers as well.
Right, yes, so we're preference power customers.
Is there other entities out there vying for our portion or our?
Oh,
Well, they love
sure,
it.
they are, but like John said, we are, as a public utility, we have preference rights to the.
Okay.
So,
That's the key.
Okay.
If we didn't have those, I'd be worried.
yeah,
Okay, that's.
but you're right, there's a lot of desire for that transmission from developers, renewable developers wanting to interconnect, but
Any growth anywhere
they
would be
have-
looking. I mean,
yeah.
Hillsborough is always talking about their lack of power. I'm just thinking.
That's
That's a big
PG.
war.
See, that's PG though.
Okay.
So here, we have those issues too, but it's through BPA instead of.
But PGE doesn't have the ability to bid for like our portion, or I mean, is there that type of?
They get what's left over essentially. They do have an opportunity to take different, maybe less reliable transmission products.
Okay.
There's non-firm transmission that BPA can offer. But they can't jump in line in front of.
Okay.
This will come up. You'll see this when we talk about residential exchange.
Okay.
Because that is essentially where, since we're municipals, publics, we have those rights. But the idea is that there's customers that are the same as our customers through PGE. And so there is a payment to the investor-owned utilities to help offset some of that from the public utilities through BPA. So, but there'll be more of this coming up as we go through the contracts.
Okay. Thank you.
But Weston, can you just tell me briefly on the renewable energy certificates? How they're used or?
Yeah, sure. So, for the most part, McMinnville has been banking those recs. There's an accounting system where those reside when they're
Because they have a certain
transferred.
value to them, right?
They do. It's not a very transparent market necessarily, and the value isn't very desirable.
Okay.
To say the least. So we have explored trying to sell some of those at different times. I consistently, kind of check in with brokers and traders and kind of see what the market is. But in the past, we've made one sale of RECs, a small one. But in the past, it's been, I think, more beneficial to retain those for the future use of water and light, because Oregon has a renewable portfolio standard, which requires utilities to supply a certain amount of their energy with renewables. And our obligation, as it's based on the size of your utility, a small utility like McMinnville our obligation started in 2025, and it's to supply 5% of our to have 5% of our portfolio be from renewables. Well, we have about 88% of our
Right.
portfolio from renewables, so we don't need those RECs right now. However, with load growth, we're gonna consume all of our tier one, which is considered, it's exempt from the RPS. And we're gonna be in a position where we need to buy tier two power, which is likely a market purchase. It's not considered carbon free necessarily. And so that will then obligate us. That will eat into our 88% carbon free portfolio. And eventually we'll have a need for these RECs, and we can use them to meet that.
And they don't
compliance.
expire.
They don't expire.
Oh.
And how many of them do we currently have?
We're approaching 1 million of them.
Wow.
And each one
Okay.
represents 1 megawatt-hour of renewable attributes.
Okay,
So.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Thank you. Smart girl. Right, Mark Dunmeyer. Come back up and talk to us.
Okay, we've been talking about next year's budget. Now we're gonna look back a little bit and we'll talk about our current year budget and how we're doing. Our actual results as of December look in our current year budget. And this is significant for us because we use this information not only to kind of tell what's happening for this year, but it also tells us a lot about our plans for next year. So it's important that we do this. And the information that we'll show is derived from the same reports that you have in the commission packet for December. So, but it's a little bit different view. So this shows what we'll talk about. And we do this just to make it fairly presentable. We'll just go over these 6, I guess 5 different categories and use this key of green, yellow, and red. And you can see what we're going to talk about. Things are favorable at the midpoint of the year, with the one exception there. We're watching utility plant, but that is typical that we don't have all of our utility plant, that we anticipate when we do the budget. We haven't got there yet because a lot of those projects aren't fully built out and haven't been capitalized into utility plants. So we'll talk more through that. So we'll start off with the light division and we'll jump over to water. So for light, you can see the income statement shown there, summary form compared to what's in the financials in the back of the packet. And then we just got a couple of balance sheet lines there that we wanted to highlight as we track this. So a couple of notes there for operating income loss and net income loss. Both of those lines are favorable. The net income, that's pretty clear, 105%. We'll talk about what's driving that. But the other one, operating income at 20%, maybe doesn't seem like that would be a favorable percent at 50% of the year. But actually, because we had a budgeted loss of 1.5 million and we recovered a lot of that, and we're at 305 right now, loss, that is a favorable recovery of that loss. And part of what drives that is when we do our budget, we don't budget for the rate increase that happened later for the distribution customers. So that's part of what helps the revenues. So then I've also noted these different percentages in blue, and that's what the next few pages that we go through here, a few slides will show how those percentages, what makes those up. So we'll start off with our revenues, and we have the different customer classes listed on the bottom, but in order to compare the actual to the budget, we look at the 5-year average for our customer bases. And we look specifically at distribution and industrial. So you can see there for distribution customers, the 5-year history is 46.9%. For industrial, 51.3%. So weather is the big driver, and the summer months for electric consumption is a little lower than the winter months. And since the first half of the year has the summer months, most of the summer months, we typically aren't at 50% of revenues at 50% of the year completed. So then when we go over and we look at our budget to actual, then that tells us something about these numbers that's helpful to us. So for our distribution, 2 largest distribution customers, those percentages, average together 48.5%, very close to our 46.9%. So, so that's what we're expecting. You can see though on the industrial at 55%, that is higher than what we typically see. And you can see these kind of range all over the place. They're, and that's all driven by what the schedules are for production at the mill. And so so that is a favorable percentage there for us, although that revenue is passed through, and we'll see the expense as well pass through also. So, and then noted this one here, yellow, that's our joint use revenue, and that's at 0% at this point of the year because we don't bill that out until the first of the calendar year. So we'll see those revenues come in as we move through the rest of the fiscal year. So there at the bottom, you can see that 51% we're on budget there for revenues for the light division. And then for our operating expenses, you can see some favorable areas there. We've kind of divided this out to help us analyze this. So for purchased power, we break the power up by distribution and industrial. And then we can look at those percentages, and you can see that distribution tracks really close to the revenue. You can see that industrial is a little bit higher. The revenues were 55%. So the industrial expenses at 58%, and but there's also the industrial transmission is a bit on the lower side. And so when those two are added together, they're going to be more in that 55% range that again is passed through. So I did highlight there this other distribution maintenance. So the non-labor portion of this particular line, 40.9%, that's tree trimming is what makes up most of that. And we do have a placeholder in that tree trimming budget for storms and other kinds of things that are not typically anticipated as part of their normal work, so that we could utilize them at a higher capacity if needed. So again, down at the bottom there, 50% for operating expenses overall. So we're on budget for the light division operating expenses. Non-operating, so interest makes up a good portion of this. And you can see that even though there's kind of some fluctuation there on the different types, that overall we're on budget. And then you also notice on the non-operating income and expenses. So this gain or loss on sale of assets, that we've have a larger loss than we typically would this time of year, but that's driven by the retirement of our infrastructure. And we've had a lot of capital activity in the light division, work in progress. And so as those assets are retired, if they're not fully depreciated, then that difference will be recorded as retirement or a loss on the sale of those assets or the disposition of those assets. But that was offset by this revenue that came in that we did not have budgeted, and that was for some clean fuel credits that were sold. So overall on budget for non-operating income and expenses, and then you can see at the bottom or towards the bottom there, our hookup fees and contribution and aid to construction. So there was some discussion earlier about a transformer that we received funding for. There's other things that are like that where we will do work and get reimbursed. And so that's what's driving that, is we've had higher reimbursements because, again, of the type of activities that we're doing over the first 6 months of the year. So overall, our non-operating, we're at 63.5%. So again, a favorable position for non-operating. And then finally, our utility and work in progress in cash in the light division. And I just highlighted a few of the kind of the different project groupings. This one up here, transmission pole replacements. James talked some about that. And then this one here, this large percentage, that's related to one of the payments for the transmission. I'm sorry, not transmission. My brain went dead. The transformers. Thank you. And then I also noted here distribution, overhead, and underground. A lot of work being done through the first half of the year there. So really good progress, and those are very large items in the budget. So the light division's made really good progress there. And then at the bottom, our facility, and of course we know that we'll have costs coming up here as we move forward. But one thing to note, and you'll see this in the water division, in order for us to open work orders in our system, we have to choose if they're light or water work orders. And so the building is set up right now as a light work order. All those work orders are going into the light division. And so you'll see when we get to water that we have a budget there, but there's nothing spent. And that'll get split when those work orders get closed. So and then utility plant, a bit low. I mean, we're very close to what we budgeted, but this we expect will come up as we get projects over in this construction phase completed and capitalized into our plant. And then we have good cash position at this point to cover those costs. So that's the light division. Any questions about the light division?
No.
All righty, so water. Again, the same view, and these two income, operating income and loss, net income and loss, both of those favorable. Again, kind of an odd, negative 61% favorable. Well, that's because we had budgeted a loss, and we're actually right now have income at the halfway point of the year. And two things drive that. One, like we talked about earlier, the water revenues do include a rate increase that we did not budget, but also there's just the way the consumption in the water works, more consumption in the summer because of the summer months and irrigation versus the winter. So you'll see that when we get to the revenues, and you can see it up there right now where there's 61% collected, even though we're at halfway through the year. And then we'll highlight or talk through each of these highlighted areas in the next pages. And that 110% as well, we'll talk about that as we get into what makes up that non-operating revenues and why that's higher like that. So here for water, the 5-year history shows 56.6%. So again, above 50%. And then we compare that to our different classes, and you can see we're very close to that for our residential. For our general service, which is all of our commercial, locations, those, that's higher, and it's interesting, it's just consumption driven. They used more water than what we anticipated when we did the budget. And the months, July through October, were all above the prior year, but particularly July and September. And I don't know that those were hotter months than last year, but I think there was just less rainfall. So, and then also noted this one here. This is our surplus water sales to Lafayette, and they just are taking more water than what we initially anticipated that they would. And so total for water revenues were at that 61%, so favorable for water revenues at this point of the year. And then for our expenses, operating expenses, again, a couple of favorable areas, and I highlighted this one that we're watching. So as part of our water sales, we provide water to the city, and we bill that, but then we don't charge it to the city. We instead eliminate that charge through an expense on our income statement. And that's higher just because it looks like the city is going to probably use more water than what we had budgeted. My guess, looking at that, just kind of where we're at this point of the year, is maybe around 280,000. So we'll be watching that and use that to help us for budgeting for next year. But overall, we are at 50% for our operating expenses in the water division. So we're on budget. And then for non-operating revenues, again, you can see interest. We're actually just a little bit higher, 56.5% for interest in the water division. Timber revenues, that one is quite a bit higher, and the reason is just timing of one of our sales. We had budgeted for half of one of our sales to go into last year's budget. We thought we'd collect that in June and the other half in July. It turned out we collected all of it in July. So that was about an $800,000 difference that we had not budgeted. So over the 2 years, it's consistent, but it just ends up higher in this year's budget. And then this last one, this contributed capital, this is on our Zone 2 pump station. We received 1.9 million, and so we received virtually all of that contribution in the first 6 months of the year. That's why that's so high. So overall, we're at 87.4% favorable position for our operating revenues at the halfway point of the year. And then for our capital, utility plant and cash, highlighted a few items in the water division. So this is a fairly low percentage. There's work being done. James talked about that, but a big portion of this budget number is a property purchase for the new water treatment plant for the Willamette intake system. So that makes up a portion of that has not been purchased. Also, really good works happened so far on distribution mains. That's a significant part of the budget, and a lot of work's been done there. You can see down here, though, the pump station, that's we waited for the contributions to come in, and so then once the weather turns, there's going to be quite a bit of work happening on that, so there'll be costs coming in on that one. And then, like I mentioned when we talked about electric, there's the building and 0% there, but that will change once the work gets completed and everything's closed out. So again, you see overall we're close, but not where we anticipate we'll be at the end of the year. So we'll be watching that. Expect that to come up as projects get closed out, and you can see we're in a good position in the water division from a cash standpoint as well. So So overall, both divisions in good financial position, no areas of red in the budget. The areas of yellow are capital related, and they're things that we, that don't, aren't causing us concern. Things that we expect, weather dependent construction usually gets underway second half of the year. And cash remains good in both divisions and well above reserve levels. That's where we're at halfway through.
Any questions?
It's great.
No. Nice report. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark.
Don't go anywhere.
Okay.
You're next. Okay. See you tomorrow. Okay. Next on new business is a resolution 2026-3, a personal services contract for financial auditing services, and Mark Meyer will report.
Okay, so last year in November, our audit that was completed, that actually was the last audit of our 3-year contract with Baker Tilly. And so in late November, the general manager directed staff to prepare an RFP. And so we did that and put that together. That got sent out in December 30th of 25. We advertised that through the Daily Journal of Commerce, the News Register, on our website, and also through direct solicitation to the Oregon Society of CPAs. The firms that were above had 10 or more in their firm, and also were listed as performing municipal audits. So that's the group that it went out to. The closing date was January 27th of this year, and we formed a committee to review the proposals that came in. That was made up of the senior accountant, the controller, myself, and power resources manager. 2 proposals did come in by the 27th, and both firms met the criteria to be considered for selection. And so the committee did go through and score them, and Baker Tilly did score higher, and the results of the scoring is shown in my memo. The biggest difference in the scoring was the experience of the key audit positions. The partner and the senior manager for Aldrich did not have any electric utility experience listed as a part of their resume, their experience, where Baker Tilly did, and also Baker Tilly was evaluated to have more utility experience, electric utility experience that was applicable to water and light in the municipal area. So I also noted that in my memo that Moss Adams, which is now Baker Tilly, they performed our audits for the last 16 years. Other than publicly traded companies, the accounting standards setting bodies don't require auditor rotation. Instead, they leave that to the entity to make that decision, and they feel that's a quality determination that should be made by the entity. And so for water and light, the quality has always been viewed as more important for experience than rotation. And so we did not, as a result, include rotation as part of the criteria for scoring. So based on that, Baker Tilly staff's recommendation is that they would be considered for selection, and the resolution has been prepared that would select them if approved by the commission for fiscal years 25 and 6 through fiscal years 27, 28 for a total price of $203,300 with the option of 2 one-year extensions subject to successful negotiation of the contract. And if that was not successful, then the resolution would give the general manager authorization to instead award the 3-year contract to Aldrich totaling $183,950, also subject to successful negotiation of the contract.
Is it normal to only get the two bidders?
Well, last time we did it, which was 6 years ago, we got three. So, I think that because we're a municipal electric utility and our scoring criteria, we put out there that we are looking for experience in that area. That does limit us to the breadth of auditors that would maybe want to put their proposal forward to us. But I also think that it's just the world's changed some from COVID. 3 years ago, when we went to we needed to do another contract. We actually were at the Oregon Government Finance Officer Association. We go to their meetings each year, and there was a session, and it was packed, all talking about failed audit RFP attempts. There was a lot of municipal auditors that were retiring, firms that decided they just wanted to get out of the municipal auditing business altogether, and they were just going to do consulting. So the world kind of shifted. So we were pleased that we got two responses, actually. So
Makes sense. Yeah, the city just went through, because they're auditor.
Yeah.
So we went through this process, so just curious.
yeah,
Okay, any other questions before Sam reads a motion?
This will be resolution number 2026-30, because it's in your packet. I'm just going to read the title only. A resolution by the city of McMinnville's Water and Light Commission to award a contract for professional financial auditing services, resolution 2026-3.
Have a motion?
So moved.
Motion from Commissioner Johnson, second from Commissioner Elmer. Any other questions?
Nope.
Thanks. Trina?
Yes, Mayor Morris,
Yes.
Commissioner Elmer.
Yes.
I will note that Commissioner Macy Baker had to leave the meeting for another commitment, so she will not be voting for the rest of the meeting. And Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Okay, so next up is a personal services contract for water cost of service analysis. Invite utility rate analyst Trina McManus to present.
Yes, thank you. Good evening. Tonight I'm presenting the staff recommendation to enter into a personal service contract with Utility Financial Solutions to perform a water cost of service analysis and rate design. We typically update the water cost of service model every 2 years, and that allows us to make sure that we're recovering our costs, including capital expenditures, O&M, and risk. This is a personal services contract exempt from competitive selection under the Commission's contracting policy. UFS has provided MW&L with cost of service analyses and rate design since 2011. And Mr. Bosha, who is the president of UFS, has over 30 years of experience in the utility environment. The items that are included in this engagement are an updated 2-year rate design for all customer classes, a long-term financial projection, comparison of cash reserve amounts to the minimums that have been set by our cash reserve policy, and also an analysis of our fire line charges, hydrant meter rates, and all charges on the miscellaneous schedule. Staff will return to the Commission with results of the cost of service study sometime this summer. Staff recommendation is to award the personal services contract to UFS to perform a water cost of service analysis and rate design for services that total $23,500. Happy to answer any questions.
Sam,
The motion would read like this. Finding it most advantageous to Water and Light under the Water and Light contracting policies, a motion to award a personal services contract to Utility Financial Solutions LLC to perform a water cost of service analysis and rate design. And for a contract price of $23,500, and to direct staff to prepare the necessary contract documents, authorize the mayor and clerk of the commission to sign.
motion?
So
Motion Commissioner Elmer,
All second?
Second from Commissioner Johnson. Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Perfect. Thank you. Okay, next up is resolution 2026-4 water treatment plant fluorine generation system project. Chad Hudson, purchasing manager, to present.
Tonight, we're seeking commission approval and award of a public improvement contract for a water treatment plant on-site chlorine generation system. Staff conducted a formal procurement process for this. The water treatment plant on-site chlorine generation system was identified in the 2011 Water Master Plan. The project would provide redundancy because we already have a system up there. It would allow for long-term expansion of the water treatment plant from 22 million gallons per day to 30 million. The work would consist of the contractor furnishing and installing all components of the system, including piping, valves, electrical, and all control systems. Staff conducted a formal or a public bid opening, and we received 5 bids. At the end of that bid opening, staff reviewed the bids that received, and we forwarded them on to Stantec Consulting, who is our project engineer for this project, who designed the project, reviewed the bids, and would like to kind of fast forward to an attached supplemental addendum from Stantec. They reviewed our bids, and the parent low bidder of Sampson Construction Company, their bid was $547,725. Section 00420 of the bid packet, which is a statement of bidder qualifications, had a line item in there. And the bidder was supposed to provide 3 similar projects that were completed in the last 7 years. After Stantec's review, it was noted that Sampson Construction Company did not provide 3 projects. They provided 1, and therefore they're saying that their bid is non-responsive. And so they moved to the second lowest bidder, Bodie Construction Incorporated. They reviewed their bid for responsiveness. They did include 3 projects that were similar. They met all the responsibility requirements. They did responsibility determination is outlined in this memo from Stantec. And so with that being said, staff is recommending, staff is recommending the commission finds to reject the bid received from Sampson Construction Company as non-responsive, as is not in substantial compliance with the solicitation documents regarding the experience requirement, and is not in the public interest in accordance with OAR 137-049-0440. Number 2, we're seeking commission approval to engage in a public improvement contract signed by the mayor and the clerk of the commission with Bodie Construction for the water treatment plant on-site chlorine generation system project for $549,000 as the responsible bidder, submitting the lowest responsive bid, pending issuance of a notice of intent to award and no protest being filed.
And this will, taking action, you'll be doing this by resolution. This is resolution number 2026-4, a resolution by the City of McMinnville's Water and Light Commission awarding a contract for the construction of a water treatment plant on-site chlorine generation system project. That's resolution number 2026-4, and it contains necessary findings and the resolution language as described by Mr. Hudson.
Do you have a motion?
Motion to approve.
A motion from Commissioner Johnson. Do I have a second? Second from Commissioner Elmer. Any other questions? Rena, can you take a poll?
Yes, Mayor Morris,
Yes.
Commissioner Elmer,
Yes.
and Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Great. Stay there, Chad, because you're up next. So now we're going to discuss the item that we added to the agenda, which is resolution 2026-5, a digger derrick purchase. And Chad, you're going to explain that.
Yeah. No, thank you. Sorry for the last minute with this one. The truck that we're going to talk about is actually available currently. It's sitting on the ground in Kansas City, Missouri.
Oh.
It's last minute. We actually sent 3 staff members last week to Kansas City to inspect the truck, make sure it all looked good. Thumbs were up. And so that's why it's kind of last minute. So I'm going to kind of go through, well, I will go through this memo more reading it than anything, just because commission probably hasn't had the opportunity to read it. Staff is requesting to pass a resolution to approve award of interstate cooperative procurement via Sourcewell contract 110421-TER to Custom Truck One Source, a Terex authorized dealer, for the purchase of a Terex General 80 transmission digger derrick in the not to exceed amount of $467,657. In the draft fleet budget that was presented tonight, there's a line item for the transmission digger derrick. And as I mentioned, we've been looking for several years to purchase a truck. We started going down the used route. We couldn't find anything that was in good shape. You could find stuff that they're really beat up, old. A lot of it was too big. We did rent things, found out that they didn't work for our needs. We've been in touch with vendors for years. They've been kind of looking for us. And then we had some staff internally reach out to Terex and found this particular unit sitting on the ground in Kansas City. They actually had a unit a few months ago that sold, but this one became available.
So it's brand new
So it's brand new.
Wow.
and it's the right, because you talked about size.
It's the right size. So yeah, so some of the digger derricks that we've rented was the DT85 from a different manufacturer. It's larger. The wheelbase and it's just wider. It takes the footprint's larger than this particular one. While this one has 80 feet of reach compared to our distribution digger derrick that we have right now, it's 55 feet. So that gives us 25 more feet of reach and about 22,000 pounds of max capacity for lifting. That's max capacity, but so much more capacity than we currently have to install the transmission poles and infrastructure that we've talked about tonight in the draft budget. So I did include some very fancy pictures of this particular unit. This is the unit. Staff took pictures of that, and you'll see that very last picture with the boom out. That's the reach that this truck has.
So if we okay, this someone gonna fly back there and drive it back, or is it being
They're
trailer?
they'll probably actually drive it.
Okay.
Yeah, they'll have somebody, one of their staff members drive. We had that conversation yesterday, so with them.
Deliveries in the price.
Okay,
Yeah,
got
that's
it.
included.
Thank you.
So kind of going back to the interstate cooperative procurement via Sourcewell. So Sourcewell, we've been a member of Sourcewell since 2011, and it's a Minnesota-based government agency that does national cooperative purchasing that enables their members to basically piggyback on their contracts. And so that's what they do. It allows us, it streamlines our procurement process immensely, and it allows us to get better pricing because of the volume that they kick out. And so in order for us to be able to utilize interstate cooperative procurement, there's outlined in 279A 220 requirements that we are to fulfill to use this contract. And on the second page of this, the requirements are as follows. The administering contracting agency with the Sourcewell, the solicitation and award process of the original contract is open and impartial competitive process and uses a selection method substantially equivalent to those in the state of Oregon, which is ORS 279B 055, which is competitive seal bidding, or B 060, which is competitive seal proposals, which this was what this one was. The staff reviewed the Sourcewell solicitation and award process. It indicates that it was open and impartial and then substantially equivalent to 279B 060. They did advertise. They had evaluation criteria. They had a proposal opening. They scored the proposals. And as a result of this, they awarded multiple contracts. B, the administering contracting agency solicitation and original contract allows other governmental bodies to establish government contracts or establish contracts or price agreements under the terms and conditions of the original contract. This is what they do. So this language is just kind of boilerplate all over in their documents. We reviewed it, and they allow the use of original contract by participating agencies, which Water and Light is one. And C, the administering contracting agency permits the contractor to extend the original contract to MW&L. It's also all over their contract. As you can see the language there. The benefits of this contract should be available to all participating entities that can legally access equipment, products, and services under this contract. McMinnville Water and Light is a participating entity. And the last one, 2A, the purchasing contracting agency or cooperative purchasing group of which the purchasing agency is a member, Water and Light, must be listed in the solicitation of the administering contracting agency as a party that may establish contracts or price agreements that are the terms and conditions of the contract and must be advertised in the state of Oregon. So we're actually listed, in their solicitation document, they have a link that you can click and you can do a lookup. We pop up, our number is 246-415. So we do pop up as a participating agency. And the original bid solicitation was advertised in the Daily Journal of Commerce in September 17th of 2021, and it's attached as Exhibit A to this document. All that being said, staff is recommending the purchase of the Terex General 80 Digger Derrick for a total price of $467,657 to Custom Truck One Source via the Interstate Procurement Cooperative Procurement Contract through Sourcewell Contract in accordance with ORS 279A220. Note, this was not included in this year's budgets.
And also because this resolution is not included in the packet, I'm gonna read the whole darn thing.
Okay.
Resolution number 2026-5, resolution by the McMinnville Water and Light Commission to award a contract for an interstate cooperative procurement for a Terex General 80 Digger Derrick, whereas the Water and Light is responsible for the management of electric transmission system in the city of McMinnville and is the local contract review board for the McMinnville Water and Light Department. And whereas the department is participating agency of Sourcewell, a state of Minnesota local government unit and cooperative procurement group as defined by ORS 279A200 sub C, and whereas pursuant to ORS 279A200, Sourcewell entered into an original contract with Terex Utilities under the laws of the state of Minnesota to provide equipment, products, and services to include a Terex General 80 Digger Derrick under the terms of the interstate cooperative procurement to Sourcewell's participating agencies. Whereas Custom Truck One Source is a Terex authorized dealer, and whereas based on the evidence presented by the Water and Light staff, the solicitation award process for the original contract was an open and impartial competitive process with methods substantially similar to those specified in ORS under law ORS 279B 060, and whereas based on the evidence presented by the Water and Light staff, solicitation resulting original contract is amended to be in effect to December 27, 2026, allows other public bodies to establish contracts under the terms and conditions of the original contract. And whereas Sourcewell as the administrating contracting agency permits Terex Utilities to extend the use of the original contract to Water and Light, and whereas the department was listed in the solicitation as a party that may establish contracts under the terms, conditions, and prices of the original contract, and whereas the solicitation was advertised in the state of Oregon as shown by Exhibit A, and whereas Custom Truck One Source as the authorized dealer for Terex offers to Water and Light under the original contract to Digger Derrick for a contract price of $467,657, and whereas Water and Light is a contracting agency and participating entity of Sourcewell can participate in the procurement of goods and services under the terms and conditions of the original contract, and whereas Water and Light staff recommends that it's the most advantageous to department to award a contract for the purchase of the digger derrick to Terex. Water and Light Commission resolves as follows. Finding it most advantageous to Water and Light, the commission approves an award of an interstate cooperative purchase pursuant to 279A 220 in the amount not to exceed $467,657 to Terex Utilities and by and through the custom truck One Source as a authorized dealer for the purchase of a Terex General 80 digger derrick and authorize the mayor and clerk or other required Water and Light representative to sign, period.
A motion?
I'll motion to approve that.
Okay, so motion from Commissioner Johnson,
Second.
second from Commissioner Elmer. Any other questions for? Nope. Okay, Trina?
Yes, Mayor Morris,
Yes.
Commissioner Elmer,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Yay.
Thank you very much.
you.
Wow. What do you have to go through to buy a truck?
Right. All right, next we're gonna go to the general manager report that's in the packet. Did anybody have any questions in regards to John's report? I love your reports, John. You
I do
do a good
too.
job. They're very detailed.
Yep.
And up to date. And great picture. Okay.
Yeah.
No questions?
No.
Nope, okay. Any commissioners have anything they want to bring up or comments? Okay, there's financial information in the packet. Anybody have any questions about the financials? Nope,
Good.
okay. And there's no executive session this evening, so we are going to adjourn the meeting at 6:56.
Thanks.
Awesome, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sam.
Yeah. Speed water.